Thank you. Okay. All right. So we're going to get started with the class. I'm just going to put up the PowerPoint because you have to press record before you put up the PowerPoint, and we'll get moving. Okay. All right. So hopefully you can see this. If you're having any problems seeing or hearing, let me know. It's a gray screen. It says happy brain equals happy life. So I hope you're seeing that. As we go through this, the chat board will be open. Again, I'll put hi up there. So if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments as we're going through the presentation, either one, you can, unmute yourself and ask anything at any time. Even though I will leave time, I'll try to leave the last 10, 15 minutes for Q&A. Or please, the chat board is open. Write down or type any questions, thoughts, or comments, however I can help you. All right. So one of the things to start talking about here is that we absolutely have the power to be happier than where we are today. Now, we all have what's called a genetic set point of happiness. And some of that is genetics. So some of it is looking at your genetic line. If, mental illness runs in your family, as in depression or anxiety, it can make you less happy. It can also be learned, where you have grown up in an environment where everybody was very negative. And again, when we say negative, we're thinking about pessimists, people who see the glass half, empty, right? They don't see it being half full. They see it the other way. Just to put this out there, pessimists now call themselves realists. So you'll hear me maybe use the word realists. So we want to go into a more positive direction. So wherever you are in that genetic set point of happiness, even if you say, well, I'm a little bit more of a pessimist or a realist, or I have a tough time staying positive, you can be happier than where you are. The reason that we stay a little bit more negative and I'll put some of this up on the chat board as we go to, I always put some notes, is because we all have what's called a negative bias. Everybody has one. It's genetic. And what happens is it kind of makes us lean towards the negative, get stuck in the negative. So it's much easier to be there in that negative. So as we shift to positive, you'll start seeing things in a different perspective. So the first thing to think about is, and I put it up here, starting over here in the left-hand corner, is whatever you think about. So whatever you're thinking about, majority of the time, becomes what you feel, becomes what you believe, and that becomes who you are. Now, remembering that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, that's a lot of thoughts. And pre-COVID, it was about half of those thoughts were negative, about half. It did go up to more through COVID, and there hasn't been any recent statistics to see where we are. But just imagining with our negative bias, having over 60,000 thoughts a day, remembering that at least half are negative. So if you're constantly having a lot of negative thoughts, and that can look different for everybody. I'm not good enough. Nothing good happens to me. Why do I always do this? I'm so stupid. I'm not smart enough. Whatever that negativity is, if you're thinking of that repetitively, it starts becoming what you feel. So if I think I'm stupid, I'm not smart enough, I'm eventually going to feel that way. And anytime anything happens, I'm going to be like, oh, of course that happened. I'm not smart enough. Of course that didn't work out for me. I didn't get that job. I'm too stupid. Because I'm going to think it and feel it. And whatever I think becomes what I feel, becomes what I believe, and that becomes who you are. Now, here's the thing with this. Your belief systems, right? We're going into your belief systems. Your belief systems are formed way early on in life. So most of you will develop most of your belief systems between the ages of birth and about 9 years old. That is the newest science. I didn't know that when I finished grad school in the late 90s, right? They didn't have this science yet. Now we know that you develop most of your belief systems that early on. So a lot of the beliefs you're holding on to now, no matter what your age is, whether you're in your 20s, your 60s, or your 80s, have developed from when you were really young. Now, the reason that happens is because when we're young, right, single digits, we absorb like sponges, right? We always hear that kids absorb like sponges. And it's because we're in what we call a theta wave state, where we actually absorb all this information. That's why it's very easy to learn when you're young. So you are holding on to whatever everybody was saying consistently, repetitively, who was raising you, your parents, grandparents, your siblings, if you had a nanny, babysitters, whoever was raising you. So you're going to have all these belief systems that are really downloaded like a computer program for that, for that long. Like I'm in my 50s, so I've had some of these belief systems for, 50 years. That's a long time. So what happens is it becomes autopilot. You just keep having these thoughts on autopilot and we don't even realize that we're having them because we've been listening to this our whole lives. Now, what happens again is when we're young, whatever we hear consistently, because all a thought, all a belief system is, I'm sorry, is thoughts that you have over and over again. So a belief system is whatever you heard over and over again from the people around you. So if they constantly said things that were negative, even if they thought they were helping you. So for example, I had a client who's been struggling with her weight since her earliest memories of, you know, elementary school. And she's like, I know my parents meant well, but they would always say such things as, you shouldn't wear that. That doesn't look good on you. No, don't eat that. You really should watch what you eat. Did you walk today? You should be taking exercise. Maybe you should, join a sport to help you lose weight. And she's like, it was consistent. They were always telling me what to do, watch my food, too many calories, you're not getting enough exercise. She goes, and it was consistent. She goes, and I know they were helping me because they wanted me to be thin. She goes, but I wasn't even noticing it till they brought it up. She's like, and I've been hearing it so long. She goes, finally, in my late 20s, I lost all the weight. I don't know if someone sneezed, but bless you, it sounded like a sneeze. She goes, I lost all this weight. She goes, and now I'm 30, I've had the weight off for about a year. And she goes, I'm not happy. Why? And what's happened is all of that negativity and belief system of don't eat that, you're not the right weight, that doesn't look good on you, that has too many calories, has been downloaded into her since she has her earliest memories. And now, even though she lost the weight and she feels better physically, she has more energy, she keep up with her kids, she still mentally, emotionally is not connecting to that weight loss because the belief system in her head is still feeling that she's just not thin enough. She doesn't look good physically. And for that to change, you have to change your mindset. So your belief systems on everything in life, from what you look like, what you think of the world, society, what you think about aging, what do you think about relationships, love, your looks, your intelligence, all of that is based on your childhood and what you've heard and what has been repeated to you over and over again. And that becomes a belief system. Now, what that means is the belief system doesn't have to be based on truth or fact. It could have been just told that. And again, my client, I don't know if she was ever even overweight because she was very tall. And when she told me what her weight was, I wouldn't have found that to be overweight or unattractive. But to her family, that's what they thought. So it really wasn't based on truth or fact. It was based on someone's opinion. The next thing is, why were they telling her that belief? And the real reason probably was maybe they struggled with their own weight or they had that behavior installed in them. And they held on to that belief system and never challenged it and just thought that was the truth. Their opinion was right. The other question is that belief system that you're holding on to even serving you? And most of the time, it's not. Now, if you have a belief system that's serving you and helping you and doing good for you, then you don't want to change it. But when you're holding on to belief systems that are not serving you, that are keeping you stuck, that's where you want to get rid of it. A lot of the times, the belief system is just completely outdated. So, like my client, she lost the weight over a year ago. It's not even who she was. Even if she truly agreed with her parents, she's not even that person anymore. And it's an old, outdated belief. So one of the things you can do and think of to start this off is look at areas of your life, whatever areas, think of all of them. So from love to career, I'll put some of this up here, relationships, finances, looks, all of this, right? Look at the different areas of your life, health, whatever areas, religion, spirituality, all of that. Look at those areas of your life. Now, if you have an area of your life that's working consistently, then your belief system on that area is probably serving you. It's probably a good belief. If you have an area of your life that just doesn't work, there's a pattern of that not working in your life, then you probably don't have a very healthy belief system. You have a belief system that is not serving you. So I'll give an example. I had a client a few years back who came in and she said to me, literally, haven't had this happen that people come into therapy and go, life is good. That's not usually what happens, but she did this. So it's why it's stuck in my head. I said, well, that's great. I said, so why are you here? And she said, I'm a lawyer. I love my career. I have my own practice, so my finances are good. I have a sister I get along with. I have good friendships. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know. Sounds like your life is good. Why are you here? And then she says it. I'm in the middle of my third divorce and I'm in my early 50s. I think she was 51. She's like, I wanted to have kids, I wanted to have a family, and nothing works. And that's where we started realizing her belief system on love is just not working. So she immediately said, but my parents aren't divorced, so it's not that. So we started going into it a little bit. And I said, I want you to just go home and think about your childhood and being raised. What did love look like for you? You talk to your sister, just really think about it. So she comes back and she says, I really did some thinking about this and evaluating. And I went out for lunch with my sister and we discussed it. And we realized that, you know, mom and dad never ever had a date night. Never seen them go away by themselves. Never even seen them kiss or hold hands or anything affectionate. She goes, but they never talked bad about each other. We never really even saw them fight. She's like, and as a family, we all got along. So she's like, I never really thought of anything of it. She goes, but then my parents got older and we moved them into independent living, but community. She goes, and they're very expensive. She goes, so we said to them, hey, you know what? Let's just get you a 1 bedroom. Most family lives in the surrounding areas. We live here. They could stay at our houses. So, get you a 1 bedroom so you have more money to go and do things. And they both were like, no, 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 we need a 2 bedroom. She goes, so we kind of pulled them apart and was like, oh, is snoring an issue or does somebody not sleep well and you need separate? And it came down to the mom's like, no, we haven't slept in the same room together since you both moved out. She goes, we don't do anything together. We don't even have a relationship. And the father said very similar. And the only reason they stayed together is one, they're much older now. It's what they've been doing. Back in the day, you didn't divorce, it was against their religion. Financially, they couldn't afford it. So now they live separate lives completely. They don't sleep in the same room, they don't go anywhere together. And that's when my client started realizing she's like, my parents never did show love. She goes, they were okay to us, but never to each other. She goes, and then any of my other friends or extended family is divorced. She's like, and I think she goes, now that I've started thinking about it, she goes, I just realized that I don't think that love works. And she goes, I just don't have a good view of it. She goes, and then I became a lawyer. She goes, and I am in family law. She goes, I do divorces all the time. She goes, and my sister reminded me when I first got married, my first husband, who was my high school sweetheart. She goes, I asked my sister to be my maid of honor. She goes, right before I got married that day, my sister said to me, are you sure you want to do this? She goes, I don't remember saying this, but my sister said it. She goes, and then she goes, I remembered I probably did. My sister said to me, are you sure you want to do this? And she said, I turned around and said, I guess so. But if not, I'll just divorce him. I am a lawyer. And she goes, I realized that I have a pattern when any relationship is going sour, whether I was married to him or we were just dating. I give it like 1 or 2 shots and then I was out the door. She's like, I just didn't want to deal. I didn't want to go down that road. She goes, I never fought for any relationship. I never worked through it. I just ran. And that was the belief system. Love just doesn't work. It either you're in a, loveless marriage or you get divorced. So why bother? And that was her belief system that she holded on to till she was 51. It's a belief system that wasn't really based on truth or fact because yes, we have a high divorce rate in the world, but there's also 50 to 60% of marriages that are successful and relationships that are successful. She was just listening to the people close to her. It wasn't a belief system that was serving her because she's not in a happy, healthy relationship. So that's an example. So start looking at the areas of your life. And if there's a pattern of something not working or an area of your life that you're always feeling stuck in, then you really want to think about what's going on here. Now, remember, this is belief systems that we've held on to for so long that they are literally all the way deep rooted. They are ingrained into us. They're in our subconscious mind. So sometimes we don't even notice what we're thinking all the time. It's just there. It's like autopilot. It's kind of like if you have the same job and you drive to work every day. Sometimes you get to work and you don't even remember the ride. You don't even remember stopping at the light because you're on autopilot. You do it all the time. And that's because 95% of your day is spent in subconscious minds. So it's just a natural autopilot thought. So how do we become aware? So the first thing is because you need to be self-aware to make any changes. So again, you can do what I just said, look at the different areas, think about what's not working. And again, if it's religion, if it's health, if it's career or finances, think about what are your belief systems. And from there, again, you need to be self-aware about what belief systems aren't working. Now, if that doesn't work, you could do a few other things. There is the snap to awareness technique where we've had clients wear a rubber band. And every time they had a negative thought or comment, whether they said it out loud or it was in their head, they would snap the rubber band. And what that would do would give an awareness of how negative they were. Just to give you, we did some research on this. I don't know if you want to take a guess. We had 100 participants for 1 week wear a rubber band. And again, every time they had a negative thought or comment, whether it's out loud or in their head, they would snap. Now, on the first day, and even pretty much the second day, there were so many snaps, way more than I could have imagined. The normal amount of snaps of negativity of thoughts was about 250 to 300 a day. Now, why that happens is because you never just have one negative thought, right? You don't just go, oh, I'm stuck in traffic and then let it go. It goes to, I'm stuck in traffic. I can't believe it. If I would have left 5 minutes early, it's this job. If I didn't have to go to a stupid job, if I had a better car, if I took a different road, if I lived in a different state, whether it was less traffic, and you domino effect. You never just have one negative thought. It domino effects. And you could have 10 or 20 in 1 minute on the same topic of something that's external, not even something as important, just something annoying like can't find parking, the weather, traffic, right? Things like that. So what happened is by wearing the rubber band, by the third day to the fourth day, people's snaps went down by more than half. Just by being aware of it, they were able to stop it. Now, what we had them do as well, and this was a while back, so we had them carry around like little Post-its or pads. You can now use your smartphone and keep track of how many and what triggered it. So where were you when you were having the most negativity, or what person was bringing it, what thoughts were coming up, kind of keeping a little bit of a journal on it. So you can do that. And again, sometimes that makes people aware because I've had clients come in and go, not sure if I'm really negative or positive. I think I'm more negative, but I don't know what I really think about. I'm so busy or preoccupied, or I numb myself, or I had a client who said to me literally on Monday, she said, I get so overwhelmed and so busy, and I have so many thoughts that I couldn't even tell you what one thought is. I just feel like my head is filled with clutter. It just feels like one big cluttered mess. And that happens to a lot of people, and we don't decipher or remember exactly what our thoughts are. So just becoming aware, because again, the first place to make a change is becoming self-aware of the negativity. If you're negative, what those belief systems are, what's affecting you, what areas. So the self-awareness is a huge tool. Another thing you can do, and this is all the way here in the corner, is a CBT tool. And if you've gone to counseling, you probably heard of it. CBT, all it is, if you haven't heard of it, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. So if I change your thoughts, I can change your behaviors. And we know we can do that. And here's a little exercise from that. So if you want for 1 week, again, you can use your phone, carry around a notebook, whatever works for you. Be mindful. We're not saying to pay attention to every thought and every word. Again, we have over 60,000 thoughts. That would be exhausting. But be mindful of the words and phrases that are negative that you constantly repeat. Typicals again, nothing works out for me, never good enough, I'm not lovable, no one likes me, why me? I'm always the one who gets left out, so stupid, I'm such an idiot, I'm ugly, whatever it is. And again, a lot of this is just based on a lot of low self-worth. And again, a lot of that's based on all of the negativity we heard, even if our parents didn't mean it or whoever raised us. Again, they might have wanted to help us. That went back to even like finances, right? A lot of us were raised with a lot of financial fear or that scarcity view. Because if you're in midlife and up, your parents were probably raised either in the Great Depression or by people in the Great Depression. And they passed on that trait that there's never enough and you better hold on to everything, scarcity view. And still, a lot of us still have that. Money doesn't grow on trees. Save every ounce of your money. You need to work hard. And all of these belief systems that are not even based on truth or fact at this moment. And they are completely outdated. So, really thinking about writing it down. Now, when you write down those thoughts, words, and phrases that you have for a week, you start seeing the patterns of what you keep repeating. Those are the belief systems. Now, when you do see what it is, then you can challenge it. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to challenge those belief systems, those thoughts, because all a belief system is thoughts that you have on a repeat. Now, for me growing up, mine was, oh, you're so stupid. So my father used to say that to me from my earliest memories. You're so stupid. Why are you so stupid? And it stuck with me forever. And I've actually, when you look back, and you will probably do the same in hindsight, you will see how that belief system stopped you in areas that you didn't even realize. Like my client with the divorce, for me, I went and got my master's and I did it purposely just to show my father I could. I put my report card on the refrigerator. I mean, I literally did all this to prove something. And then I never went and got my PhD. I applied, I got into a few places and they would never do it. And when I look back, I realized it's because I still had that fear that I wasn't smart enough to get through it. Even though it wasn't based on truth or fact, it was based on what my father was raised with because he was raised in that situation and he just followed in that learned trait. So you want to challenge them. So you want to ask yourself, is the belief, and I'll put this up on the chat board, based on truth or fact? Is it really based on truth or fact? Like if I go back to mine, I'm so stupid, it was not based. My earliest memory of that is 2.5 or 3 years old, which is where most of our first memories are, anywhere between like 2 and 4 years old. I didn't have an IQ test. I wasn't in school. Back in the 70s, right? If you were in a nursery school, there was no academic curriculum. It was nap, piano singing, going out on the playground, nap. It was a half a day. So it wasn't based on my IQ, wasn't based on any grades. I was normal in every capacity of talking, walking, speaking. So it was just based on my father's opinion of himself and what he was raised with. So it wasn't based on truth or fact, even though I held on to it like it was. Once I challenged it, I realized it. Where did you get it from? So you can look at it, where did you get it from, which is important because when you realize where you get it from, you realize that they might have been holding on to it or how they were raised or what they were taught. So thinking about where does it come from? Is this belief system serving you? So are you getting any benefits out of it? Now you could be getting negative benefits out of it. So just a reminder here, like from using my example again is the negative benefit is, well, if I wouldn't take that risk. So by not taking that risk and going and get my PhD, I couldn't fail. That made it more comfortable and easy. So a lot of times having a negative, inner voice and belief systems, it keeps you feeling safe. It stops you from taking risks, which could cause rejection or mistakes or failures. It's much easier to do. It's what you're used to, what you're accustomed to. You might even feel that it protects you because you're afraid of change. So is it serving you in a negative way? And if it is, being aware of that. Because when you look at it, you realize it's really not serving you. It's just keeping you stuck. Or the other thing is it helpful? Is there any good benefits from it? And most of the time, there's really not. And again, is it outdated or old? Is it a belief? Like might have been true, like my client, but that is no longer true or hasn't been true in years. So really start challenging those thoughts because all those thoughts are cognitive distortions. They keep you stuck. So, it's that catastrophe thinking. Everything fails for me. Nothing goes right, right? It's not looking at life from reality of like, okay, this thing sucked, but this part's going good. We just look at it, everything sucks. Or, that all or nothing thinking. Either everything's great or everything is horrible or it's black and white. We're not looking at things through a rational, realistic lens. So that's the first thing. Again, we need to be aware of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what belief systems we're holding on to. The good news with this is the belief systems, which is your mindset, is in your control, right? When we think about things in our life that we can control and what we can't, we always want to work on things we can control. If you're working on things that you have no control over and you keep trying to change it or control it, it's like banging your head into a brick wall and expecting a different response. So you only want to work things you have control over. And your mindset is one of them. And your mindset includes your beliefs, which also includes your patterns, right? Things that you constantly repeat over and over again. And it could be things that you don't think, like, I've had clients who be like, no, I'm not dating the same person over and over again. Not only do they have a different name, but they don't look anything alike. They have different careers. Yes, but they treat you the same. It's that pattern. So you want to be aware of that. It's your habits and your routines. And all of that is completely in your control. And that is the good news. So remembering that, because a lot of times people used to think that they were a victim of their genetics. So they couldn't change. But we know that is not true anymore. And this is what it exactly looks like to just give you nature versus nurture, which has changed over the years. So 50% of who you are is genetics. So you can blame your parents for 50%. 10% of your life is based on circumstances. So those are things that happen to you that you can't prepare or plan for, like a natural disaster, right? A hurricane, a tornado, an earthquake, a car accident, an injury, an illness, things like that. You can't prepare or plan for COVID, the pandemic, the lockdowns, but they shift your life. The 40% is the best part because that is the part that you have control over, and that is the nurtured part, or otherwise known as the learned. And 40% is completely in your control, and that includes your mindset. Your mindset falls under that 40%. So when you're thinking about this and you go, oh, I don't have any control, or it's my genetics, absolutely not. You do have control over it. But you again have to be aware. But always remember that 40% is in your control. So, what are some things we can do besides what we just talked about? So, the first thing is we want to always be aware. So, a lot of times we don't know what's causing the triggers in our life that make me feel negative or the stressors. So, you want to do what's called the mind body connection. Now, the mind body connection is really important because our bodies are called the pain body. And the reason we call our bodies the pain body is because we hold all of those negative emotions on our body: stress, anger, anxiety, fear, overwhelm, worry, all of that. Now, I hate calling them negative because the truth is All of those emotions are natural and normal, and you need to feel your emotions to heal. But they are more intense than positive emotions such as love, joy, gratitude, kindness, right? So, being that we hold all of them on your body, it's a red flag or an alarm going off when you have too much stress, when something around you is causing that stress. And that's really important because a lot of times we're not self aware of how we let people treat us. And some of the biggest stressors in our lives are people. I hate to say that, but with the holidays coming up, a lot of times those stressors, those people are family. So, how you know that something is affecting you is by how your body feels. Because again, we're really good at numbing ourselves, avoiding it, pretending it doesn't exist, or it's so deep rooted that we just don't even pay attention to it. But your body will tell you. So I want you to ask yourself, where do you hold stress? And if you want to share in the chat board, that would be great because everybody holds stress in different areas. But I'm going to go over the general areas where most people hold their stress. And I want you to remember this. So going forward, when you feel it, it's a sign to just go, okay, let me stop. What's going on? So the common areas is first right here, right? I know on Zoom, it's hard to see it, but it's your shoulders, your neck, and your upper back. You do this. You tense up. And if you're in front of a computer all day, it could even be worse than that. But in general, when we're tense and stressed, we do this. And it becomes in this whole area. So that's the first area people feeling it. Next one that a lot of people actually forget about, so I'm going to put it up here too, is your jaw area. And it's called either TMJ or lockjaw. And what happens is we're either grinding or clenching. Men tend to grind, women tend to clench, but either way, it causes the same reaction. Now, the hard part with this is a lot of times you don't even realize you're doing it or feel it, or a lot of times you're doing it in your sleep and you won't even notice, or like a dentist won't notice for a while until it starts affecting the front of your teeth. But there'll be other signs. So again, I know I'm on Zoom, hard to see, but if you touch right by your ear where your jaw is right there and you poke at it, it will hurt. That's your first sign. And I know because I have TMJ. It's where I hold a lot of my stress right here. That's the first sign. Another way is when you yawn or you're eating or you go to the dentist, take a bite out of an apple, you either hear a clicking noise or it hurts or it feels like your jaw is going to stay locked open. For others, it's teeth sensitivity and teeth pain. And it could really feel like getting root canal, like that's how bad it is. So that's a common area. Headaches and migraines. Another common area is your stomach. Now, I had a client express it to me perfectly. Should I feel like someone's in there wringing a washcloth? And that's exactly what it feels like if you get it in your stomach, because I get it in my jaw and my stomach. Other people get it in their whole body because, again, they tense up their whole body. And if you're constantly stressed and in fight or flight, your whole body's going to feel tense. And it's going to feel like every bone and muscle aches. A client expressed it to me perfectly. Like right now, I have the flu. So, or I think it's the flu. I have over 100 fever, and every bone in my body, muscle aches, but I'm sick. But people who are not sick will still feel like that because you're holding on to that tension everywhere in your body. But again, you want to use that as an alarm. It's such a great mindfulness tool, a self awareness tool. So, thinking about this, if you have people in your life, again, if you have that low self worth and that belief system that you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're not enough, you're probably the people pleaser. And the people pleaser always attracts the toxic, narcissistic, unhealthy people in their lives. Why? Because, well, a narcissist, a toxic, they want to be put up on a pedestal. They want everything to be wrapped around them. And if you're a people pleaser, and I know as a recovering people pleaser, your whole job is to make sure everybody's happy, that everybody's okay, and you put everybody first in front of you. You make everybody the priority, and you actually forget about yourself. I had a client say to me a few weeks ago, she said, am I supposed to even be a priority? Should I be on the priority list? Which is an absolute yes, you should be. But if you're a people pleaser, or even if not, You're going to be around people who take advantage of you. And what's going to happen is, again, we'll allow this to happen. But if we now realize it because we feel it on our body, we'll start connecting that that person's just unhealthy for me. And I want you to think about the handful of people you spend the most time with. Family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, it doesn't matter who. But how do those people treat you? How do they make you feel? Are they healthy relationships, reciprocal, positive relationships? Is everybody around you negative or toxic? Being aware and how people make you feel. You'll know it too, because not only do you feel it when you're around them, they could text you, call you, or it could be family, and you know you're seeing them next week for Thanksgiving, and you're already feeling it on your body. And here is the thing too. If you have toxic people in your life, they will actually make you physically sick and keep you feeling so negative about yourself and keep your low self-worth down where they want it. Because what happens with a toxic person is they are completely selfish and self-absorbed, and they make everything about them. They're very chaotic and drama driven. They're very critical, judgmental, harsh, rude, controlling, jealous. They'll manipulate, they gaslight, and they just make you doubt yourself, question yourself. And they're always the victim. So being that they're always the victim, they'll never, ever take accountability or responsibility, and they'll always put the blame on you. And if they're gaslighting you or manipulating you, you're going to believe it. And that's just going to keep you down in that not worthy enough area. So you really want to be mindful of who you're spending your time with. And remembering this, moods and emotions are completely contagious. And negativity is stronger than positivity. So if you're constantly surrounded by toxic, negative people, even if you think you're an optimist or positive and you go in there and you're trying to lift them up, they're going to bring you down before you lift them up. And this is what it looks like. I'll put this up. Negativity is so much stronger than positivity. So you need 3 positive thoughts to balance out 1 negative. That's how much different. 3 positive to balance out 1 negative. So again, if you have 1 or 2 people in your life that are the negative Nancys, the Debbie Downers, they're not toxic. They're just a little pessimist or realist, but they're really good people with a big heart, and you have a reciprocal relationship. And if you tell them, hey, enough whining, or let's go have fun, they can. That's good. If you find that your whole group of people that you're surrounded with are negative, not toxic, but negative, then you want to ask yourself this question. 1, are you negative? Again, are you the pessimist? Not a judgment, just knowing who you are. Or are you finding yourself in a negative space at the moment, right? Because life's a roller coaster ride. It's filled with ups and downs. Sometimes life's great, sometimes it sucks. And you might find yourself, when everything's at that rock bottom, being more comfortable with the negative people, but you realize it's temporary. The other thing is, again, are you the people pleaser, the positive, trying to lift everybody up and being aware that they will bring you down? So really being mindful of that, because that'll help you also figuring out, is feeling not enough, not good enough, not lovable, not worthy, one of my belief systems I'm holding on to. And you can see that by who's in your life. And again, the toxic people, the ones you really want to be mindful of. And toxic people, again, if you have somebody in your life who's toxic and always taking advantage of you, a sign you're a people pleaser is not only do you always put them first, but you always are feeling resentful, bitter, and or angry with those people because you know they're doing it and you still allow them to do it. So you're angry at yourself, but resentful and bitter with them. So if that's the case, you want to work on your worthiness belief, and also, of course, setting boundaries and limitations. But again, if you feel that you're not worthy enough, that will be hard to do. So just being aware of that. The next one is every time you're having a negative thought, and again, we're going back to the awareness, having that self-awareness. Are you negative? Are your thoughts mostly negative? And again, we're always having thoughts going on in our mind, right? We all have that inner dialogue that's going. Everybody has it. Just being mindful of, is it negative or positive thoughts? So once you start becoming aware of it, one of the things you can do is you want to stop those negative thoughts. You want to pattern interrupt. That's what it's called. Because what happens is that negativity is going on all day, right? So you want to interrupt that pattern. And the first part, again, is being aware. But once you're aware and you hear it, if not, you can use that snap to awareness, just to get yourself aware of the negativity. Every time you hear a negative thought or a comment, you want to stop it. Now, for everybody's a little different. Some people are more visual, some people are more verbal, but you could try any of this. Every time you have the negative thought, you want to stop it. So you might just do stop. You might say it out loud or say it in your head. I have a few clients who are more visual and they'll picture a stop sign, a red light, a yield sign. I have a client whose daughter was in she's preschooler and she was in the phase of talk to the hand. So she said, every time I want to stop, I just picture the hand up. Or if you're more verbal linguistic, you might just say stop or nope, or I don't need that thought, or no, thank you. It's just being aware that you're having a thought that's negative, that's not serving you. You're not judging it. You're just identifying it and stopping it. You don't want to spend time on judging it or anything. It's just, nope, I don't need that thought. Nope, I heard you, but I'm moving on. No, thanks. Or again, seeing the stop sign, the hand up, whatever visualizes. The more you keep repeating that, because again, our brains learn through repetition. They learn the negative through repetition. Now you want to stop that negative by repetition. It takes a little while, and here's the reason why. You're changing a habit. Now, again, habits are in your control. It's part of your mindset. But to change a habit, break a habit, form a new habit, if you've ever read magazines or articles on this, a lot of times, especially with New Year's coming up, they'll be like, oh, you can change a habit in 21, 28 days, in a month. And I just want to tell you, scientifically, it takes about 3 months of consistency. Consistency is the key. So in a month, you'll notice the changes. So let's say I quit chocolate and sugar. Can't even imagine, but let's say I did that, right? In a month, if my friend came up to me at work and was like, I don't want this Hershey bar. I know you love it. You want it? It's going to take every ounce of willpower and discipline to say no. Now, there's a good chance I won't say no and I'll eat it. If I do say no, now I'm going to think about it and crave chocolate all day. And I might even end up cheating because a month I'm still working on discipline and willpower and motivation. In 3 months, if she came up to me and said, do you want this Hershey bar? I'll probably go, no, thanks, and walk away because it's become an autopilot lifestyle change. That's what we want, a lifestyle change, right? You brush your teeth, you tie your shoes, you brush your hair. You don't think about it, you just do it. That's autopilot. And for a habit to become that, you need 3 months. So remember that if you're creating any New Year's resolutions, because most New Year's resolutions people give up in 3 weeks. And it takes longer and you need consistency. So if you stop, go, might even have to give it longer. But you do have the ability to change that habit. But again, you've been having those negative thoughts 10, 20, 30 years, depending what your age is, 40 years or longer. So it's going to take some time. So be patient with yourself. Be kind. And when you are actually insulting yourself and you hear that negative inner self-talk that sounds like it's bullying you, give yourself self-compassion. Don't beat up on yourself. That don't be like, of course I'm a loser. I can't believe I'm even believing that. And don't judge it. Give yourself self-compassion. Think about how would you talk to a friend or somebody you love or care about. If they came up to you and they said something negative about themselves, would you call them a loser? Would you say, what's wrong with you? You'd go, that is not true. Why would you even think that? You might even touch their arm or give them a hug and tell them how much you love them and tell them all the good about them. You would be empathetic and compassionate. And it's much easier to be compassionate and empathetic to other people. I get that. But we have to learn to be self-compassionate to ourselves. Even if it's just learning this, I'm just not there yet. And you can do that. That's kind of the growth mindset. Reminding yourself, I'm working on this process. I'm just not in the positive zone yet, or I'm not at that place yet. key word being yet, because yet brings hope. It's like, yeah, I know I can do it, just not there yet. I just need more practice, just need more awareness. But you will get there, and absolutely scientifically, you can. So please give yourself patience and also notice how far you have come. It might be as easy, and some of my clients is that they never even were self-aware. Getting self-awareness is 50% of the battle, and that's some of the hardest stuff to do. Because again, 95% of our day is an autopilot. So just becoming self-aware and then starting the process of retraining your brain, remembering it's a process, it's huge. So positive reinforcement, compliment yourself. Be aware that you're doing the hard work. You also want to change your words. So watching how you talk, and a lot of us do this, right? I can't, I couldn't, shouldn't, I wish I could, maybe. And again, maybe never means maybe. Maybe usually means no. And we're just either people pleasing wise, we're afraid to say no. So we say maybe, or maybes we don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings. But the truth is, most maybes mean no. And no is one of the most important words. No is a complete act of self care. No is a complete sentence, even though it's a small word. And saying no to things you don't want to do, you can't do, don't have the time to do, interest, whatever it is, means you're saying yes to yourself. So it's a hard word when you're not used to it, but it's an important word. But think how you talk to yourself. Because if you're always saying, I can't, I mean, I should, but I can't, you're keeping yourself stuck in that negative loop. So just be mindful of those things. Again, we're not putting any pressure, it's just being mindful. Now, visualizing the change for the goal. So whoever you want to be, right? So when we're thinking about retraining the brain, a lot of times people say, well, thinking about manifesting the life I want. And you have to remember, your thoughts really do, because if you look at your belief systems and all that negativity, it'll match the life you're living. So we've already manifested the negative, which is proof that you can manifest the positive. But to do that, you have to be able to see it. Whatever you can see, you can get to. And we use visualization even in the Olympics with marathon runners. They'll put them on treadmills, hook them up to machines for tests, have them visualize winning. Visualize they're running, they're going through the ribbon, they're high-fiving people, they're pouring the water over their head, they're hugging their family, they're crying, they're so happy. And it'll improve their speed by 20, 30% just because they visualized it. If we can't see something, we can't get there. So scientifically, all we need to do is visualize for 2 minutes a day. That's about it. It is not this long process, because I know a lot of people are like, I can't change my schedule, I don't have time. It's very easy. Before you even get out of bed in the morning, so you just woke up, before you even get up, you want to do this visualization technique. So all you want to do, excuse me, is either visualize a goal you're working on. Maybe you're changing a belief, right? Maybe you're trying to be healthier. So you want to visualize yourself exercising, wearing the clothes you want, feeling the way you want. Or if you just want to visualize what's going on in the day, if you have something big you have to do that's causing a lot of fear, you can do it that way too. But let's say it's a goal. You're working on being healthier. Every morning before you even get out of bed, stay in bed and just visualize the outcome. Visualize you being in that body, you being in those clothes, you feeling that. Visualize being there. Use every ounce of your senses, all the details you can use. What are you wearing? Who are you talking to? What are you doing? What do you feel? What do you smell? What do you hear? Really visualize it. Really get there. And you, again, only have to do that for 2 minutes a day. Might go a little longer if you're enjoying it, but you'll feel the emotions of accomplishment. By seeing yourself there, you start believing it. And that's what we need. We need to believe it and trust it. It also reduces our fear and stress because we can actually see an outcome. So it really, and it improves your overall task of whatever you're doing, that performance. So visualizing is a really strong way. Now I'm going to be totally honest. I sucked at visualization. I am a verbal linguistic, read a book, write. Visualizing was so hard for me. I'm not visual spatial. You can practice it. And you can practice it by doing guided visualizations or guided imageries. Try to put this up here and type, or they're called guided imagery. And it will really help you do it. Because again, you can work on anything, whatever is a weakness for you, right? We all have our strengths and then our weaknesses. A weakness is nothing bad. It's just showing you areas of your life that aren't as strong as the other areas. And you can pick and choose which areas you want to work on, the ones that'll make your life better. And I knew for me, visualization was something I was not good at. And I knew it could make my life better. And it took me a good 6 months, not going to lie. But what you want to do is practice through this. Now, what I used, and if you want to try it, I'm going to put it up here. It's the 6 phase meditation. It's by Vision Lakini. I'm not sure if I'm spelling this right, but if you go on YouTube and you just put in the 6 phase meditation, it'll come up. And it is a meditation where they just talk you through it. So you're not just sitting there deep breathing or listening to meditative music. You're actually visualizing. It's an active meditation. And it's really great if you've never meditated to or you want to get into meditation. A lot of times people say, I can't just sit still. I can't control my thoughts, which you're not supposed to, just so you know. But still, and there's no right or wrong, it's a great way to practice. The only thing you do need is headphones. So you put in a set of headphones and you listen to the 6 phase meditation, and it'll have you think and visualize things. And it really helped. And again, it's on YouTube for free. There's two different ones. One version's like 13 minutes, one version's 18 minutes. Pick whichever one you want and just practice, or you can use other guided visualizations or imageries. YouTube has a bunch of free ones. The only problem is a lot of times ads pop up, which could be very annoying. Or if you get into that zone and then at the end an ad pops up. So if you want to try other ones, there is a great app called Insight Timer, and it's completely free because there's Calm, there's Headspace, but those all charge. Insight Timer has a free one and a paid, and the free one is great. It's got a huge library of meditations, visualizations, meditative music, all of that, and that'll help you practice. But just to give you a little bit, it's really the placebo effect, right? What you believe, what you think actually phases, right? So we do all these studies with medications where new medication comes out and 50 people actually get the medication, 50 people get the placebo. And if you look up placebo studies, you realize how much people believing a pill is really working affects them. And Dr. Ellen Langer, who is, she is a famous Harvard professor. She's the first female Harvard professor. She literally did a study like this where she brought in the 70s, it was the 1970s, she brought in, oh, wait, sorry, Mary Jo, I think you kind of got thrown off. So Dr. Ellen Langer, she brought 20 different men, all men in the 1970s to a retreat in Massachusetts. All of them were in their 70s. And back in the 70s, when men retired, they retired earlier. It's like 55, 58. A lot of times they would just feel there was no purpose. There was no meaning. They're retired. They weren't, there was nothing for them to do. So when she brought these 20 men to this retreat, they brought them to a place that was like it was 1955 all over again. And in the 50s, they were vibrant, they were working, they were active, they had purpose, and they were in their 50s. And what happened is she brought these 20 men who were all in their 70s, who were fragile, who were too thin, who couldn't walk without a walker or cane. They were depressed. She brought them there. And after, I think they were there for a week, but after 4 or 5 days of thinking it was the 50s again, they made the whole retreat look like it was 1955. Every newspaper, every magazine, every TV show, every decoration was from that time. You started getting into it again, talking about it, even had TV dinners, trays, everything from that time. By the end of the week, It brought them back to the 1955 when they were in their 50s and vibrant. Every one of them left. They gained weight, which they needed. They walked out without their cane and walker. They were happier. It literally shifts your life. Now, we're not saying don't do, traditional medicine and all that, but what you think, what you believe actually plays a huge role in what happens in your life. So that's why the visualization and what you believe is so important. And this is a true story. So I have a friend whose mom was 73 at the time, and she was this really tough German lady, tiny though. She smoked her whole life. She was still smoking. She ended up with pancreatic cancer, stage 4, complete death sentence. She goes to the doctor. My friend and her brother go with her, and they say, 6 months to a year, maybe. We can do some chemo, but it's just really for quality of life. We're not even going to tell her to quit smoking. There's nothing really we can do. Her mom turned around to the doctor, looked up with her finger and said, no, 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 I'm not leaving. No, he's about to have a baby. I'm going to stay. And the doctor was like, great attitude. Keep up the optimism. It'll help for better quality, maybe give you a little more time. Told my friend and her brother, it's a great attitude to have, but really there's not much hope here. 7 years later, she died. 7 years. And she never even quit smoking. The last 6 months of her life were not good. She got another 6.5 years. And she stayed smoking with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Nobody knew what to do with that. But there are so many stories like that. If you read Dr. Bernie Siegel, who's an oncologist in New York City, I think he lives in Jersey, he writes all these stories. People come in like stage 0 or 1 cancer where it's completely treatable, but they believe they will die. They either don't heal well, or sometimes they die, or it's a real big struggle. There's other ones who are like that, stage 4, there's no hope, and not that they live forever, but they get another 3 years, 5 years when they were only giving them 2 to 3 months. What you think plays a huge role in how you heal, how you handle things, what you believe, what you trust about yourself. Here's a few other things you can do. So one of the other ways to kind of retrain your brain is gratitude. Now, gratitude is a superpower, and I'll tell you why. So one, gratitude is a positive emotion, as we talked about before, negative and positive emotions. Every time you have a positive emotion, whether it's gratitude, kindness, love, joy, awe, wonderment, you get a boost of happiness. So every time you feel grateful, you get that boost of happiness. On the other side of it, gratitude is a form of mindfulness. Every time you are mindful, right, which is that buzzword, you're in the moment, you're in the here and now. That's what mindfulness is. But every time you're mindful, you reduce your stress hormone cortisol, you lower blood pressure, we can get that out, reduce chronic pain, self-soothe, calm, come back to the present moment where you're your calmest, your healthiest, and most creative and productive. So every time you feel grateful, you get mindfulness, the only natural way to distress, as well as happiness. So that's great just on its own. And the science says it too. If you do gratitude consistently, you have a gratitude practice that every day you're grateful, happiness rises by like 20% or so after a month or so of just doing gratitude. So just doing regular gratitude is great. But if you want to do it this way, it helps retrain your brain. So I put it up here in the first sentence. What I have my clients do is every night before they go to bed, I want them to ask themselves what are 2 to 3 things they're grateful for that happened today. Like I want them to look through their day for the little gifts, blessings, and miracles. It does not have to be anything big. It could be your hair came out good. It could be that you got good parking, that you walked into work before it started raining. It started raining 2 seconds after you walked in. Whatever it is, it's just noticing what you did today that is making you feel grateful. Now, why that's important, a few things. If you do regular gratitude, like if you have a good gratitude practice, which is amazing, what happens, and I hear from people, is, you start saying the same things over and over again. Grateful I woke up today, grateful for the roof over my head, for my friends, my family, my job, and those are all wonderful. But if you keep saying the same things over and over and over again, you get into a gratitude rut where it just loses value, it loses meaning. The other thing is at night, right before you go to bed, right? You shut the light, the TV, you should say goodnight to everybody. That's when we start the rumination, right? Because there's nothing occupying us. We start thinking about our day, what happened, what we should have said, what we could have said, why did we say yes till tomorrow? And then we think about our to-do list for tomorrow, and we become overwhelmed, stressed, and that whole negative rumination comes up, which is why a lot of people have problems sleeping or falling asleep. So if you do gratitude before bed, you're getting all the benefits of happiness. So you go to bed with good thoughts. You're also getting the mindfulness, which helps you sleep and reduce your stress. It's really important because whatever you're thinking about, 20 to 30 minutes before bed affects if you sleep, how you sleep, what mood you wake up, and how you dream. So it's really important that right before bed, you're doing something that's light or positive. No news, no movies or TV that causes fear or anxiety. You want it to be very light. And you should have, as we talked about before, right? Routines are really important and completely in your control. You want to have a morning routine and an evening routine. You can have an afternoon routine if you want, but morning and evening is really important because morning sets your day up for success. Evening routine winds you down for a good night's sleep, which helps you wake up better. So having gratitude at night fits the evening routine, right? Winds you down, gives you something positive 20 to 30 minutes before bed, gives you that boost of happiness, reduces the stress, and helps you sleep. But by looking through your day for the little gifts, blessings, and miracles, it starts shifting what you notice. And remember that happiness is a perspective. Where am I putting my attention and my focus? Am I putting it on the good? Am I putting it on the bad? And you're going to have some bad days where it's going to take much longer to find the gratitude. And you might only find one or two things instead of two or three. But you want to do it every day. Now you can write it, have a journal if you like, and writing's your thing. Say it out loud or say it in your head. Doesn't matter. You just want to do it consistently. And it really makes a shift. It is one of the most effective tools for retraining your brain. Now, if you want to add to it, which is really important, you do two of these things. And these are what are called happiness habits. They are scientifically proven to work to make us happier. So either right before or right after your gratitude check in the evening, you're going to ask yourself the second question that's up here. What are 2 to 3 things I did well? And again, you can write it, say it out loud, say it in your head, whatever works. Now that's different than gratitude. Gratitude is I'm grateful for something, but I might have had not any control over, right? I'm grateful that the weather was good. I didn't control it. I'm grateful that we could put this, workshop online because I'm sick. I didn't create the, Zoom technology. I wish I did, but I'm grateful it's here. Being grateful is amazing and it's a great feeling, but it doesn't mean it's something you put the effort in, the hard work. What you did well are the things you did the hard work, put the effort in, you put the practice, you took that risk. That's really important. So doing both of those at night, again, adds to your routine, which again, we want. So when we have good routines, it gives us things to look forward to that make us feel comfortable and familiar. It gives us the known, keeps us balanced, feeling secure, and that's really important. So that keeps us happier and less stressed. But having mindfulness in your routines also is great because it helps you reduce stress naturally. So by doing this at night and noticing during the day, you'll start noticing the good even in a bad situation. Or again, you'll start noticing purpose even in a painful situation. You start shifting what you notice during the day, what you look for. So again, with the negative bias, very easy to look for the negative. So those two things are really helpful and they will help retrain your brain. And if you do those, you will notice a difference. I have done gratitude consistently since I've gotten really sick. I have an illness that I got really sick. This was 12 or 13 years ago. I could not even swallow. Lost 28 pounds in 2 months. end up with burns on my throat. It's precancerous. I'm stuck with this illness. The one thing that shifted my life literally was gratitude. It is just such a superpower. So you can do anything, do these two things. It will make a difference. They're free, they're easy, and it'll take you like 5 minutes. So definitely do that. Something else you could do that you can add into your morning routine. So again, in your morning, you want to do your visualization or you even get out of bed. And then after that, you want to ask yourself the magic question. And it's, again, very easy to do. And usually my clients will do this when they're in the shower, making coffee. You just want to ask yourself, and again, you want to throw it out to the universe. I don't want you to try to answer it, because if you try to answer it, you'll answer it on autopilot. The question is, how can I make this a great day? Now, if you answer that on autopilot, you probably go, I'm too tired. It's not a great day. I gotta go to work. But if you just throw it out there to the universe, how can I make this a great day? Let it just come as the day flows. Thoughts will come up like, oh, you know what? There's not as much traffic. Let me stop and get that coffee. Or, you know what? I haven't got to talk to my friend and I know she's at work. Let me give her a call. And ideas will pop in your head. So just ask yourself that as you're walking through, just throw it out to the universe, say it out loud in your head. Just how can I make this a great day? Have your brain start looking for the good. The other thing you might want to do in the morning is make your bed. Just a little bonus. If you already do it, great. It's a military activity, right? You don't have to throw the quarter on it or anything. Just make your bed. And the reason we say that is every time you make your bed, you get two positive emotions of pride and accomplishment. And again, every time you have positive emotions, you get a boost of happiness. So make your bed and change. Even if you're not going to work that day or you're working from home, even if you go from pajamas to sweatpants or leggings, change. Change will actually, again, give you that pride and accomplishment. So make your bed, get dressed. Perfect. Here you got some morning and evening things in there for your routine because you want to make sure that you have good routines. You also want to make sure that you have healthy habits that are serving you, that are making for a good life. So look at your habits. Think about this. What are you eating and drinking? Because those are habits, but also what do you digest? Media. What are you watching on TV, reading in the paper, reading in a book, on Google, Zoom, whatever it is? And how much time are you spending on social media? Really important. What you digest is, again, all completely in your control. It makes a huge difference. So do you have healthy habits or do you have unhealthy habits? And being mindful of the unhealthy so you can make those changes and reminding yourself, of course, you can change your habit, giving yourself that time to do it, that 3 months. You also want to think about positive affirmations. And again, this could be part of your morning routine. Now, a positive affirmation is saying something to yourself, repeating it. That's, again, it's that repetition, an affirmation that works for you, that is working on something you are working on. So for me, when I was really sick and I couldn't swallow, and it took over a year before I could even swallow like Cheerios. Every morning I'd wake up and I would say to myself in the morning, and then I would repeat it all day, right before I went to bed, I am healthy and whole. Now, obviously, the first few weeks I said it, I was like, this is bullshit. I'm not healthy and whole. I can't even swallow. But after some time, and again, it took weeks or months, I don't remember because it's like 12, 13 years ago, exactly how long, all of a sudden I started having a shift in the brain. And I was like, you know what? Now, at that time, I was a therapist at a traumatic brain injury rehab where I worked with traumatic brain injury, spinal injury, and a lot of my clients couldn't walk anymore. They were paralyzed from their chest or waist up from an accident, military, whatever it was. And I started seeing things differently. It took a while, but all of a sudden, I remember one day just driving to work and I was like, all right, I can't really eat. I'm going for IV infusions and stuff, but I can walk. I can talk, I can see, I can drive. I started realizing the good. And every day I would say, I am healthy and whole, because that's what I was working on at that moment. I was working on my health. So, whatever your affirmation is, it should be about something you're working on in your life, something that makes sense to you, something that's realistic. So if you're dealing with low self-worth, it might be, I love and accept myself. And again, in the minute you say it, you might be like, it's bullshit. I really don't. It's the goal. It's the place you want to be at. And you can add that in with your visualization, which I did. I'm healthy and whole, and I would visualize myself eating and being healthy. I have a client who has brain injury and also has cancer. And I'd have her every day visualize Pac-Man. Do you remember Pac-Man? Showing my age again, right? Going across the screen. I would have her visualize, because this is a known typical visualization for cancer, that Pac-Man was eating her cancer cells. She would do that every day and repeat the same thing every day. And again, first few weeks, she'd come to me and be like, this is just total crap. And then a few months later, she's like, I kind of look forward to it. I feel like I'm kind of helping. It's a positive. And yes, did she make it through the cancer? Yes. Was it still chemo and radiation? Yes. But it helped her healing. And she even said that by believing she could get there, she was more motivated to do the work to get there, to go to the chemo radiation, to eat well, to get the sunlight and do all of that. So whatever you're working on in your life, make the positive affirmation about that. So again, it's really working on where you are. So lastly, we kind of went over this, then I'll do any kind of questions. When we're talking about habits, and we talked about that takes 3 months, but you can break a habit, form a new habit. Few things that help you do that is one, what is the reason why you're changing that habit? What's the why behind it? And the why should be intrinsic, or what we call internal, meaning you want to have a why that's based on purpose and meaning. When we want to change a habit because of material things, titles, status, looks, money, all of that, doesn't really hold. If you said, well, I want to lose weight, not because of looks, but I want to lose weight because I have more energy so I can be there for my kids so I can live longer, that's going to work. So is an intrinsic internal reason. What is the why behind making a change? Know what your why is. Get support. We can't heal, grieve, or forgive alone, whether it's a friend, a professional person, whoever it is, get that support. Expect that you will have some obstacles and setbacks. Relapsing is normal. So you have a day that you didn't do well, let it go. Don't beat yourself up. Move forward. Just the next day, start again. It's normal to have that. Everybody does. So really thinking with that, if you have one, or if you can expect what those obstacles are, then you can prepare and plan. Try to only, if you're doing a big habit change, right, any big change that's going to take a lot of effort, try to do just one at a time. Otherwise, we could become overwhelmed and stressed, and then we procrastinate. Procrastination is never really about lazy. It's a lot about overwhelm, stress, fear of success, fear of failure, fear of both. Use positive reinforcement, which is a mix of praise and rewards to keep yourself motivated and going. Watch your triggers, know what your triggers are, what triggers you, who triggers you. Make sure, again, that you have mindfulness throughout your day to de-stress. And if you're doing goals, again, if you write down your goals, literally write them down, pen and paper, you're 42% more likely to accomplish the goal. So writing them out, and if you have a goal, you also need action steps. Don't just write the goal, write what the action steps are, write why you want to accomplish this goal, what the final outcome will be, how you feel, visualize it, and write any obstacles that you can expect and how you can try to prepare or plan for them. And that would really be helpful. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. I just babbled to you for a while. I'm going to stop